does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
Feels great.
One of the most important things that a TV show needs to get right is its first impressions on the audience. Ideally, you want to start off strong with the first few minutes. Things like setting a tone, an idea of the characters, or even engaging us with the premise of the story is important for making us care about what kind of story you want to tell. Daredevil Born Again fails in every regard. In the first 50 minutes of the show, Born Again ruined most of what mattered in Season 3 when it comes to the main characters we have connected to for years, and it does this while not elaborating on important events in the show or flat out ignoring them outright, just to tell their shitty fanfiction for Disney+. We open with Matt, Foggy, and Karen in Joe's bar, where we see set up for things to come later in the show, like White Tiger and the detective friend that will be a new replacement, new character to totally add to the show. We also get to see Foggy try to make moves on some girl, even though Foggy in the last season was implied to be getting married to Marcy. So already in just a few minutes, the writers have shown they did not pay attention to the show they are making a sequel to. They don't explain why Foggy and Marcy are not together or what happened between the two, and seeing what happens later to Foggy, I don't think they will for the rest of the fucking season. I don't think this ruins the season or anything, but it does give off a really shitty taste already. After some banter with the gang, Foggy gets a call from some client who says he is being attacked. Matt overhears this and asks Foggy why he was not told about this. Foggy says,
"Look, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't want to give you an excuse."
Even though by this time, Foggy is accepting of Matt's life as Daredevil and would not just withhold information to Matt when a person's life could be in danger, to the point that he hides the client in his apartment.
God. Can't stand it. Can't fucking stand it, bruh.
So after the show damages Foggy as a character, we get this shitty CGI introduction to Daredevil. Yes, after years of waiting, the first time we see him again, he looks like a CW character. Daredevil goes to check out the apartment until he realizes that it was a setup by Bullseye. Yeah, they don't explain how he is free after Season 3, or why he is going full-on assassin, or why he does not try to get revenge on Fisk after he kills the girl that he liked, or the fact he broke his back. But now he is back and just shoots and kills Foggy Nelson!
What? What? That's it? What the hell?
So in the first 10 minutes, they kill off one of the most important characters in the original show, and they only do it as a plot device and shock value. Wow, what a great start. I don't think killing Foggy in concept is bad, but to do it so soon and with very little build-up and respect is what makes the death in the show not work. We barely get any time with Foggy to know what he's been up to in Born Again. Like, fuck, once again, we don't know what happened to his love interest, Marcy, or what his relationship with Karen and Matt has been after the events of Season 3. We get basically nothing when it comes to his history after the original show, so killing him off before we get any kind of semblance of what he's been up to or what kind of character he's become is fucking lazy and just used for shock value. It's also not needed for Matt to give up being Daredevil after killing someone. In the original comic version of the story, he just killed a random criminal by accident, and that was enough to bring him to a low enough point to quit being Daredevil. So why not just do something like that instead of killing someone that we care about like Foggy Nelson? Not only would you not have to kill someone like Foggy that a lot of fans care about and like as a character just for shock value, it also would mean we would not have to add Bullseye into the story, which would mean the problem of Bullseye not being in jail or not hunting Wilson Fisk after the fact that Wilson literally crippled him, like not a part of the show at all. That wouldn't be a problem because we don't need him here, just like how we don't need Foggy dead. Foggy was killed off in the most tasteless, shitty way possible, and worse, it was unnecessary for the story they wanted to tell. Oh, also, Foggy got the Joel treatment. To end this section off, all that I'll simply say is, if you want to kill a character off, especially a beloved character or an important character to the cast of your show, you gotta first give us a reason to care about the character in this show in particular. Yes, he has 3 seasons of the original show, but Born Again is also supposed to be a fresh start. With that being said, you need to show why we should like and care about Foggy, especially after the years of not seeing him after Season 3. With this being said, they did nothing but rush his death for cheap shock value. I say it over and over again, shock value, shock value, shock value, because it didn't need to happen. There's many different ways you could have had this story with Daredevil, and if you wanted to kill off Foggy, you should have earned it and built it up, like how good stories would be able to handle it.
Hello there guys, this is Skids here. Normally I would have done this myself, but since this show is just so mind-bogglingly bad, me and Comic Legend both agreed that we should collab to take the show down. To continue where Comic Legend left off, the way they kill Foggy is disrespectful and completely tasteless. It's basically like the opening of Terminator Dark Fate, where they killed John Connor in the first 5 minutes, rendering the original movies pointless. This is a very similar case here. I'm not going to reiterate what was previously said since I share the same sentiment, but what makes it worse is that what surrounds it isn't even good, not even the action scene. To start, after Foggy gets abruptly shot, Bullseye proceeds to shoot a couple more guys and throws a smoke grenade into the bar. He walks slowly towards Karen, even saying hello to her, a callback to him doing that in the original show. I don't take issue with him not shooting her instantly, since this behavior is consistent with his character in Season 3, where he will hold back if the targets had a closer relationship with him. But that's where any praise I have for this scene ends. Daredevil swings around and they crash through the window. They start fighting while Bullseye is murdering people with random objects. The immediate problem here is the cinematography. I get that a smoke grenade was just used, but the place is so foggy, no pun intended, it's legitimately hard to tell who it is half the time, what's even going on. It could be used to hide imperfections of the choreography or the VFX, which are also not particularly good. They're clearly trying to recreate the long takes the original show was known for, but those were very well lit, choreographed, and you can tell they put a lot of effort and dedication into them, especially with the 11-minute long take in Season 3. They start climbing the stairs, throwing their weapons at each other while Bullseye's on the retreat. At the top of the roof, Daredevil somehow manages to just swing his way up there, and he manages to get the upper hand. While this is happening, Carrion's tending to Foggy, attempting to keep him together. Daredevil unleashes a volley really fake-looking punches, which are very clearly not connecting. They don't even try to hide it. I know that the original show was also guilty of that, but at least the context of the scenes were insanely better than this one, which makes it that much more forgivable, and they made more of an effort to hide when the hits weren't connecting. Daredevil, with his super hearing, hears Foggy dying, and while in great agony, he demands to know why Bullseye did this, only be met with sadistic chuckles and a grin. The performances here are fantastic, especially from Charlie Cox, who's really selling the greed. And that's the only good thing about the scene though, because it goes down faster than me in the toilet after eating Taco Bell. Because they instantly character assassinate Matt here by throwing Bullseye down the building, almost guaranteeing that he dies, and taking his mask off, which is how one of the detectives sees his face.
I hate being alive! I hate being alive! I hate breathing! I hate being alive! I'm in tremendous pain! I'm in tremendous pain! Help me! Help me! Help me! I'm in so much pain! I'm in so much pain! I'm in so much pain!
All right, well then, okay, let's get off the internet.
And before I get anyone claiming he did the same thing with Nobu at the end of Season 2, Matt knows that Nobu is basically immortal, considering that he thought he burned to death, but he still survived, along with the other mystical crap that they hand her up to. As for him attempting to kill Bullseye, yes, he had temptations to kill before, but he always overcame them, like the end of Season 3 of Kingpin. And that was after everything Kingpin had done. He didn't even try to kill Bullseye, even when he had killed Father Lantum, the man who was basically his father figure, even after his own dad's death. I get that Foggy's his best friend. Matt has been shown before that he is above that, even if he has thoughts about killing. That's what makes him a hero. They throw all that away and make him into a moron in the process. So we're only 16 minutes into the show. They've already ruined the title character and killed off one of the main characters of the previous show.
How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
One of the worst trends I have been seeing in modern superhero stories is the fact that they lack conviction and inner strength to overcome the odds anymore. From Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2 needing Miles' help and or pep talk to take off the black suit, to Captain America giving up in Endgame, there seems to be a trend of heroes giving up or being too weak to continue doing what they do best. Daredevil is one of the victims of this trend now, thanks to this show. The character who used to be about never giving up in what you believe in gives up for reasons that do not match up with the original show. Marvel has now ruined my two favorite characters in their franchise with this awful fucking trend, and I'm getting sick of it. Why is it so hard to have a story about our heroes that are not about them being weak or breaking their own no-kill rule, or can't overcome great odds on their own? We are in an era of superhero stories with weak superheroes. What the fuck? How many more fucking superhero shows do I have to watch where they break their own no-kill rule, are unable to beat threats by themselves, are too weak to overcome great odds in general, can't take off the black suit without a friendly reminder that they have friends or a family? I'm getting sick of it. I'm getting sick of things like My Adventures with Superman, where Superman needs normal humans to help him fight superhumans every single time. I'm sick of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where he needs his good old buddy old pal Lonnie Lincoln to defeat the Scorpion. Why can't they overcome things anymore? more? Why can't Daredevil go, I am better than this, I am better than you, I am not gonna kill you, Bullseye, no matter how much of a monster you are? That's what he did in season 3, so why can't he do it now? Remember the good old days when we read comics like The Amazing Spider-Man, The Death of Gwen Stacy, when Green Goblin, this vile, disgusting murderer, killed Peter's love, the love of his life, mind you, and in the end, with no outside help, held back and decided, I'm not going to kill you because I'm a hero and I'm not going to break that no matter how tragic my life gets? Where is that? That used to be inspiring. That used to be fun, and that used to make us love and respect these characters. Stop taking this away from us.
Cutting to the intro, it's alright. Sure, the music is solid and visuals are cool in their own right. The horn being chipped off the cowl, the Nelson, Murdoch, and Page sign crumbling. But as with everything in this show, it's not as good as the original. The original theme is just simply iconic, with its chimable tune, the gorgeous VFX, and the imagery that hits with the overarching themes of the show. It's all so good and next level. Granted, the intro is the least of our issues with the show, but it still could have been done better. We cut to 1 year later where Matt is in his apartment where he cuts to none other than Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, dressing himself up. Yep, he's just back now. How exactly? Well, get wondering, because this episode and the next one, by the way, aren't interested in telling us. I know what the counters are going to be, so let's go ahead and address them. To start, I know it's not impossible for him to get out. The problem with this show, nor any of the prior ones he's been in, such as Hawkeye and Echo, don't explain this at all. I get this is the first episode of this show, but the point of the first episode of any show, especially if it's a sequel to a prior one, is to bridge the gap between what's happened previously. This show doesn't even try in the slightest. All we get is that one mention from Matt that he's playing the system again. That's as far as the show does to explain it. In season 3, Raiden and Dean sacrifice himself to ensure that Fisk is put away for his crimes, and it was recorded on video, his confessions of being corrupted by Fisk and getting murdered right after. And it was broadcasted to everyone in the city. His superior, who was also corrupted by Fisk, corroborated the story. There should be no way in the living hell he should be released, especially not this soon after that season. The FBI will be surveyed constantly by the hound dogs from the higher up in the legal system, and Fisk lost his criminal enterprise at the end of season 1. He should have nothing left at this point. This ultimately makes Nadim's sacrifice pointless now. Before I get into inevitable whataboutism that Ben Urich's death in season 1 was made pointless by season 3, Ben's sacrifice wasn't to bring Fisk to justice, but rather to protect Karen from Fisk so she wouldn't be killed for visiting his mother to ask her about her son. It was through Matt and the confessions of Hoffman that brought Fisk down the first time. Before England brings up the comics, either that's an issue there too, or there's context as to why it's not. And from what I've heard, it's more of the former, because from what I've heard from Comic Legend, Fisk never had this much evidence against him in the comics, and the reason he and Matt stopped coming after each other is for their mutual love of Vanessa, which is why they stopped fighting each other after she died. That makes far more sense than the case here. We're expected to believe that he's so popular he's viable as candidate for mayor. He wins, and we just have to go with it. This is basically Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker when he just came back, and the film is just too lazy to actually explain the context as to why he's back. It just moves along to having the villain to be more powerful than we've ever seen him before. This is just embarrassing. We cut this news report called the BB Report, ran by BB Urich, the niece of Ben Urich from season 1, asking about the state of affairs to the citizens of New York. Get used to these breaking the pacing of the show being pointless, though we'll elaborate more on that for the next episode. We cut to Murdoch and McDuffie, the new law firm that Matt works at, which reintroduces Kristen McDuffie, the same woman Foggy was hitting on the opening sequence. More on her later. She tells Matt that what he'll say will carry weight during the sentencing.
We then see that Matt is going to Bullseye's sentencing for the murder of Foggy and everyone else that day. The first thing I want to mention is once again the show does not care about the OG, because where the hell is Foggy's family? Did they not show up to see if his killer will be punished? This is a nitpick, but Bullseye is really goofy to me with his neck crack and the look in his face. It's like a little kid trying to look tough to their mom. Now that I think of it, who sent Bullseye anyway? And wouldn't Matt want to know that too? Bullseye is an assassin who usually works for someone, and Matt never thinks to interrogate him for an entire year? Moving back on track, we get confirmation that Bullseye is going to jail with a life sentence where he will hopefully not escape with no explanation again. Well, here's hoping. We then see Matt talking to Karen after not seeing each other for an entire year. So, what do you guys think they will talk about? Well, I assume they would want to catch up with each other, how their lives are going, maybe rethink their friendship. Nope! Instead, we get the reason she left Matt was because he was closed off emotionally after Foggy died!
You didn't talk to me for weeks.
Yes, the character who keeps Matt and Foggy going through it all, even after so much has happened, decided Matt was being too sad after his best friend died was reason enough to leave him. Compare that to season 3 where Matt lied about being dead to both her and Foggy, or season 2 when Matt kept Daredevil a secret from her for the longest time, and you would know why Karen leaving Matt is absolute character assassination.
Fucking garbage ass team.
Even if you want to bring up that she was grieving too, that does not account for how she is still not in contact after Matt wants to fix their relationship. Karen believed in the good in the Punisher, who is a mass murderer, and stayed by Matt's side as much as she possibly can to help Matt after his lowest in season 3, even after he let her believe that he was dead. But not talking to her that much after Foggy died is what breaks it for her. What a joke. So far, this episode has ruined Matt and Karen as characters, while also killing Foggy off in a dog shit manner. This ruined the entire point of the ending of Season 3, where Matt and Karen learned to stick with each other through thick and thin. Now Matt and Karen are split up and Foggy is dead, disrespecting the original show's themes and arcs that was built up over the years. 3 seasons of exploring Matt's no-kill rule, and him overcoming the temptation is all destroyed. Matt letting in the people he cares about is ruined. They have made 3 seasons of a beloved show pointless and disrespected the art that gave them the opportunity to make this garbage show possible in the first place. Screw you!
After that terrible dialogue with Karen, we see that Matt knows that Kingpin is running for mayor. There's a pointless scene of Fisk discussing his campaign for mayor with his team, which doesn't really add anything. We establish a new love interest for Matt, therapist Heather Glenn, who's set on a blind date by Christian, where they have little to no chemistry. We cut back to Matt with Christian, and the show attempts to establish their friendship between the two. The problem is that there is a lack of chemistry between them as well, especially when compared to what Matt and Foggy had going on, even in the first episode of the original. Matt chats with Cherry, the same detective who saw him during the opening, and Cherry mentions that the cops are split between loving and hating Fisk. Even though in season 3, it's established that all the cops hate him now, since the ones who were corrupted and exposed were in prison, leaving only the non-corrupted ones left. Matt also claims that maybe the city is getting the mayor that it deserves, which is wildly out of character for him to say, but this episode has already gone out of its way to destroy his character, so this shouldn't be a shock at this point. We get more BP Uric reports where people are in love with Fisk and doubt that he's actually a criminal, and they all should hate him like they did at the start of season 3, when he was transferred into protective custody at the high-class hotel. They only started to side with him when he framed Daredevil being a murderer and claiming that he framed Fisk at the end of season 1. But after Nadine's recording, it should be all over him as mentioned earlier, but the show forgets everything that is mildly inconvenient for the story and wants to tell. Fisk makes an argument on TV on how vigilantes are cancer without any nuanced argument whatsoever.
The Matt and Fisk conversation is a massive wasted opportunity. This is the scene where they could have addressed what happened with the deal Matt forced Fisk to take in season 3. But instead, Matt just tells Fisk he is watching him and thinks he is possibly gaming the system. Okay, expose Vanessa then, or at least bring it up to him to keep Kingpin in line. And if he can't do that, then why does Fisk not kill Matt and everyone he loves, like he said he would do in season 3 if Matt does not kill him instead? Instead of addressing any of the problems I just mentioned like a well-written story would have done, we get callbacks to other bad Marvel shows, and Matt gives a warning without mentioning his trump card for some reason. Oh, speaking of the other shit Marvel shows, in the Hawkeye show, Clint has video proof of Kingpin's illegal actions and never uses it to stop Fisk from becoming the mayor. I guess Hawkeye forgot about the video he had that could save the city. Oh well, at least the Defenders will try to get involved to stop Fisk if Matt does not want to use the Kingpin's wife against him. Right? Oh wait, this is the MCU, where we keep forgetting other heroes exist. My bad.
There's not much left to say. Matt goes on a date with Heather, and the relationship is already showing signs of being rushed and forced. They confirm that Fisk wins the campaign, which is stupid for reasons already explained. And that's the final nail in the coffin for this episode in terms of major character assassination. It's implied that Vanessa slept with another man, and she requests Fisk not to kill him. We don't know who this man is, but we'll likely find out later. But this is catastrophic for her character, because no matter what happened, whether being poisoned or being separated from him in season 1 until late season 3, she was always loyal to him and still maintained contact with him. Even during the final fight, she still stayed there and she begged Matt to spare Fisk's life. So her cheating on him when he was in prison again, when he was recovering from being shot in the face from Echo, ruins her too. The crowd celebrates Fisk winning. Matt and Heather kiss already, which confirms to me that the relationship is certainly rushed. We end the episode with a very odd musical choice, and Matt being out of character once again with him not helping a girl in need, even though that's literally his first act as a vigilante, but let's ignore that. Now on for episode 2. To start, it's nice that they paid respect to Camar de los Reyes, since he passed away after his battle with cancer after filming for this season, so good on them for that. The episode officially starts with Kingpin addressing the city as its new mayor, where he continues to slander the vigilantes of the city, such as the Punisher, Spider-Man, and Daredevil, which continues to make no sense considering that the people in New York should be the people who love the heroes the most, considering multiple times in the MCU we've seen the heroes save New York, the birthplace of the literal Avengers, but we're just going to forget about that to manufacture this moronic premise since everyone has just 1/10 intelligence now.
Episode 2 starts off with us being introduced to a new character named Hector Alia. While he's walking down a subway, he sees 2 guys beating up on someone. Hector then proceeds to try and stop and help, but in the process starts a fight with the 2 men. The fight looks really lame, with way too much shaky cam that makes me feel like I'm watching lost footage of Batman Begins. I have trouble keeping track of who is fighting who, or if Hector is even winning the fight, until one guy gets himself killed and it's revealed that the men Hector was fighting were undercover cops. It's also worth mentioning how lame it is that they write the cops as cartoonish bad guys. When all the way back in season 1, we had characters like Blake and Hoffman who were corrupt but had moments that make you believe that they were still people, even if they were selfish people. Like how they interacted as friends, talking about whose turn it is to do the shady act next. They also have a motivation that makes you understand why they work for Fisk because of the fear he instills in them and also the money that entices their greed. While in this show, we have evil cops who are just mean and beat people up for no reason, I guess. This is the hook of the first episode, and I will admit, it is a lot better than the smelly corpse that was the first episode's hook, but not perfect. First of all, don't subways like this have cameras on 24/7? Because the point of this episode is about Matt defending Hector Alia for crimes he did not commit. It's pretty fucking crazy that Matt never asks for recorded footage or any kind of evidence to prove that he's done these crimes besides the word of mouth of a bunch of cops, especially if, once again, it's very likely that he would have been recorded in a very public area like the subway. Case closed. Secondly, we see at least one of the cops has a gun, so why not pull it out on Hector in the first place? If you want to say, well, comic legend, shooting someone will attract attention, then why not at least show that he has a gun to scare off Hector then? But these problems aside, this episode's opening at least didn't ruin all of our beloved characters in one fell swoop. So, yay? Before I hand it back to Skids, there is one thing I want to talk about. I have noticed that in the show, they use music in a very, very lazy way. Usually music should only be used to add emotion to a scene or excitement in an action sequence, but sometimes to cover up mistakes of other sounds, aka walking, putting keys on the table, yada yada yada, they use music for the background. That's perfectly fine and good. The problem is, Born Again does this all the time, to the point where it's blatantly distracting and really annoying.
I was named for my uncle.
Ben Urich.
Yeah.
I knew him. I've made mistakes in the years since I was a boy. I tried to learn from them, but it isn't always enough.
Why is it too much to ask for moments in these shows to be calm and quiet? Some of my favorite moments in the OG show are the moments where music stops and we just get sucked into the world we are watching. Music does not play in the real world every time you are having an important conversation with someone else or experiencing an event in your life, so when I hear some overdramatic music playing every time Matt is taking a fucking walk to a 7-Eleven, it takes me out of the story completely. Back to you, Skids.
We get another pointless BP report where people just hate Daredevil now, despite all he's done for them. I'm not going to keep repeating why it makes no sense for New York to hate him. We get a scene with Kingpin in his office talking to his advisor, and we see that his knuckles are bloody when he's talking about Vanessa, implying that he did go after the guy who slept with her, which isn't engaging at all since it's only happening because of her character assassination, so any character drama that can be formed out of this is completely null. In the police precinct, Matt overhears Hector being beaten up by cops and offers to be his representative. Nothing much to comment on this since this is pretty straightforward. Kind of funny how the scenes in the show that aren't outright bad are just nothing to write home about. Kingpin runs into a hole in the road and he orders the foreman to fix it. He arouses the people by claiming he's going to fix everything, and we get some awful looking iPhone camera filters that are pretty jarring compared to how the rest of the show looks. Matt argues with Kristen about the case, but she's convinced to take it, and Matt orders Sherry to look into Hector and to talk to his wife. I'm curious as to why Matt doesn't ask Brett Mahoney to help him out on the case, since they've asked him for help multiple times in the original show, but he's just gone now with no explanations, just like Marcy. You wonder why I advocate that this show should have been a hard reboot? Hector's denied bail because of him attacking the cops. BB Yerg interviews Fisk, and nothing really comes out of that. Heather is selling her book now. There's this weird guy who asks if she's taken on any new clients now, so she gives him her email. Fisk attends the funeral of the cop who was killed in the opening, and the commissioner of police refers to him as the Kingpin of crime in New York, and how it makes no sense that he's the mayor now. So the show is even self-aware that it makes no sense, but doesn't make any actual effort to explaining any of it. Christian is asking Hector's wife questions, and meanwhile Cherry's investigating their apartment, and he finds out that Hector is a white tiger. Want to know how? Because the guy is so stupid, he just leaves it under his bed with no locks whatsoever. Remember the original where Matt stores his gear in the drawers underneath a bunch of stuff so it's hard to find? You know, something actually smart? Sherry informs Matt of this, and Matt is angry at Hector for not informing him of this.
So far, we are more than halfway through the episode, and as you can see, nothing interesting is happening. Matt's character is barely getting explored, there is no development as to what the Kingpin truly wants out of being mayor, the side characters are still shallow, and the plot is moving at a snail's pace. Episode 2 of the OG show gave us the entire relationship between Matt and his father, Foggy and Karen's friendship growing, an introduction to a new side character, and a lot of world building from how Fisk's criminal network operates and how the Russians do business. The episode also does a lot of character work for Matt to make us understand why emotionally and morally he decides to become Daredevil with just this episode alone, from how he wants to save the innocent like the little kid that he saves at the end of it, and how he's motivated by the death of his father. All of this was just in the second episode of the original show, and Born Again can't even give me a reason to be interested in Matt's story, all because of the shit pacing and lacking ideas as to what they want to do with both Matt Murdock and Fisk, besides the whole do what the comics did mindset they seem to have, with none of the reasons why those comics worked in the first place. Moving back to the episode, Fisk makes a threat to the commissioner with photos of his family. This scene tells us nothing new about Fisk, nothing interesting about his character, or even tells us anything new about this post-season 3 world.
What the fuck we talking about?
Up next, Matt convinces the judge not to use Hector's life as the White Tiger in the courtroom. Does this tell anything about Matt post-Foggy's death? Nope. Does this add to the world building post-season 3? Not much besides that vigilantes are not liked for some reason. Does this give us an interesting conversation about the law and how superheroes affect the legal system? Nope. Moving on.
Fire all of them, clean house!
Another useless BB report later, we get admittedly a decent scene with Matt and Sherry talking about how Matt moved on from his life as Daredevil, and how White Tiger's situation might be hitting close to home with Matt. In a way, Matt is projecting his life as Daredevil onto Hector Alia, seeing how Matt clearly has strong feelings about Hector going out to be a superhero, even if it could hurt the people he loves. Supported by an earlier scene with Matt confronting Hector after finding out he was the White Tiger. I even like the beginning of the scene when Matt is holding on to a piece of his horn from the original costume he wore as Daredevil, visually showing us how he feels about the case and himself. Matt has to confront the fact that once again, the law is not enough and can treat people like him or Hector Alia unfairly for doing the right thing. This is the first step to Matt's journey back into becoming Daredevil. I think this moment was overall good, and I wish more of the episode was at least written like this scene. But sadly, that is not the case. Like I've said before, and I'll keep saying, there's a lot of lacking depth when it comes to most scenes in the show. A lot of it is very shallow and doesn't really delve deep into the characters. We still have no deep dive into Kingpin, barely any for Matt, and all the side characters basically have nothing to do in this story so far. But that being said, pretty decent scene.
Afterwards, Matt is walking down the street where he overhears part of a sermon from a church, and so far this is about all we get in terms of religious aspect of his character. I know this is just 2 episodes in, but even literally the opening scene of the original, we were already introduced to this side of him and how it informs his decision to be a vigilante. It was an effective opener which hooked the audience instantly, but here, until this scene, you'll be forgiven for not knowing if you haven't seen the original, that this is the only indication we get so far that he is Catholic. And the showrunners even said that they're dialing back this part of him for this show, which I think is a mistake. Setting aside my own personal biases, the religion was a very crucial part of the original, which was especially a major part of his conflict in season 3, where he doubted God for everything he's been put through, but he came to terms with it at the end of the season. I get that he lost Foggy, but him losing faith in it again is just tedious from a character progression standpoint, because as I mentioned during the start of episode 1, he lost Father Lantum, his main father figure, and he even came to understand why it happened and why God allows it to happen. It's also part of a double standard that they make the Christian character dial back his religion, but not the Muslim character in the Miss Marvel show. Disney's definitely not being discreet about what religion they love to pander to. Then again, they only do it for brownie points, so this shouldn't be surprising. Matt trails the guy who was getting beaten by the cops from the beginning. He gets a call from Heather, who says that she has to change the reservation because she has to meet a new client. And who are the new clients? None other than Fisk and Vanessa, of course. So this scene continues her character assassination. After Fisk gets shot by Echo at the end of the Hawkeye show, Fisk was absent for some reason. After he recovers, he doesn't see her for a while, which is why Vanessa cheats on him, which, as I already covered, makes no sense considering her dedication to him despite how dangerous it was. And now all of a sudden she just cheated on him for no reason. This is just such compelling drama, isn't it? Matt tracks the guy to his apartment, telling him he's in danger, that Nikki's the only way Hector could be exonerated. Matt convinces Nikki to head to Fort Tryon Park for safety, but instead of going with them to protect Nikki, Matt just stays there. The cops beat on him and pull their gun on him, forcing Matt to fight back. Not sure why he had to do this, since as I said, he could have just left with Nikki to guarantee his safety, since fighting back risks his identity as Daredevil being exposed. And if he had to stay behind, why not just wrap some clothing around his head like he did with Jessica's scarf in Defenders? As for the fight itself, editing and camera work are so bad, you can't tell what's happening. It feels like it was edited by a schizomaniac on crack. It feels like they're more trying to hide the bad choreography rather than it being an artistic choice. I get that this is only episode 2, but even the original in its first 2 episodes had the hallway fight, which is one of the most beloved fights because it was very well put together. Even the fight between Matt and the guy sent to kill Karen was way better than this. After defeating the guys, Matt picks up his glasses and yells, where we get this very jarring cut to credits playing this happy hot music right after a serious moment. Talk about tone whiplash, my lord.
What a terrible start to the season. Hell, what a bad start to the entire show as a whole. Not only did they ruin most, if not all of the characters we had attached ourselves to for years, they made the entire point of season 3 mean nothing. This show has already taken the strong-willed hero who believed in the importance of life into a weak-willed loser who is willing to break his no-kill rule and give up being a hero when people are in danger.
I hate being alive! I hate being alive!
They made Karen scum who leaves her friends when they are going through hard times and killed off one of the best supporting characters in superhero media for cheap shock value and a lazy way to introduce boring replacement characters. The world building that was handcrafted by so much talent in the OG show is rendered pointless with bullshit such as Fisk being free with no consequences, the police force not at all hating the Kingpin, and more. But ignoring all of that, when the show is not ruining what came before, it is really boring. Barely anything has happened yet, and I still have no idea who these new characters are about. I can't even remember their fucking names most of the time. From what I can tell, this show was originally supposed to be not canon to the original Netflix show that came out before it. This is probably why a lot of the decisions that was made in episode 1 were made in the first place, like killing off Foggy and getting rid of Karen. I have 2 things to say about this. 1, Kevin Feige or whoever made this decision to do a reboot in the first place, you can kindly go fuck yourself. If you have the power to continue a beloved show, why was that not the first thing you would do? Everyone would love to see what happened after season 3, and there was no reason for a reboot anyway. How dumb do you have to be to greenlight this brain-dead reboot when it would do nothing but annoy all of the fans of the original show? And the fact that you guys did not scrap Born Again to start fresh after the decision to be canon was made shows a lack of care for the fucking franchise in the first place. And 2, if you did not want to scrap everything, then you should have stuck to the reboot. Most of the flaws in the writing would just go away, such as Fisk being mayor or Matt not being with Foggy or Karen, if you stuck to the reboot. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You made the decision to reboot like morons, so you should have to live with it because now all that we have is a show that taints the legacy of the original for no good reason. I was not going to make a video on this show originally because even if it was bad, I thought it was going to be nothing offensive. But after a friend of mine told me what happened to Matt, Foggy, and Karen, I felt obligated to make a video on this piece of shit show because Marvel is okay with making a stain of art if it makes them a profit. To end this off, fuck you Marvel for ruining Daredevil.